Recording. Oh well, I guess I'll start moving the mouse in 3, 2, 1. Hey dudes, and welcome back. This is a little series that I wanted to start that sort of focused on how I make the effects for the Leftover Culture review, because I thought it'd just be kind of cool to talk about. And it's something I'm passionate about, and it's something that I know that I can get better at. So if you've got any sort of, you've been watching this and you think, well, there's much quicker ways to do this. Why the hell are you doing it this way? Let me know in the comments, because this is just a hobby and I'm making videos, for YouTube. So I don't spend much time working on these special effects. It's more of like a way for me to test out concepts and ideas without sort of, committing like a short film amount of time to. So, welcome back to my messy compositions with way too many projects going at once. And this one's from my zombie revenge for the Dreamcast review, and I've already shown how I cut my fingers, and that was quite simple compared to the VMU effect, which the screen replace, there's a few things happening in the VMU effect. There's the screen replace, there's the blood splatters, and then there's the original footage that I recorded for the VMU. Is actually quite rough. Like, I had to play, obviously, I had to play the thing. I tried to emulate it, but it didn't work. So I had to get footage of me playing the VMU, and then I had to track and stabilize all that footage, and then I had to cut this out and paste it into my finished VMU screen. So the end result is slightly jerky footage, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. I do have time working against me, so that's another reason why the compositions are going to be so messy, because I am literally throwing everything into my After Effects composition, putting it together. I just remember what everything is, where everything's called. I don't arrange things very well. I'm not coming back to these projects in 3 months' time and opening them up and thinking, let's work on this effect that I was working on. It's get it done, put it in the video, and then hopefully I'll get a chance to do something similar again, and I can draw from my experiences and put it back together. But these compositions are going to be messy. That's just the reality of my editing style, I suppose, and how much time I actually have to devote to this sort of stuff. So, like I said, there's a few things happening here. I'll skip across to VMU Pickups 2, which is basically the same thing but without the blood. This is where you can see lots of things happening here. Not really lots of things. These are plastic fingers that when I was cutting my fingers, I actually had a plastic hand, and I took a shot of me cutting off those plastic fingers. It didn't work out well, so I used the digital version, but I had those plastic fingers, so I thought I'd use them in this VMU shot. So what I did was pretty much just drop them onto the cardboard, and there's a bit of slime and stuff which I thought would look a bit better, but the effect is still there. But as the fingers drop, this is just a cardboard box that I was filming on because I like the look of it. But every time I drop it, the VMU shakes. The first step was to track the motion for the VMU. So using a null, I took all the tracking data from this VMU video, and I put it into my null, and you can see like the null will move. Well, you'll see that the null does move with the VMU. So this way, as long as everything is attached to the null, like the screen here. So with this composition here, This is just the plain composition without any blood. So this is just me trying to get the VMU, put together, get the footage on there. So I've got 2 layers here. This top one has all the motion tracked. This top one here is the color corrected one. I've cut the screen out of the middle, so if I turn this one off, you can see that I've cut the screen out of the middle. I've got a tracking point, which, if we look at the original footage for this tracking point, I thought it would show me. Yes, there. This tracking point tracks the little motions, especially as the fingers drop onto the table there, like there. So, there's not much movement there, but it's good. It's important to have. So, that's the top plate. Then underneath that, we've got a screen. In between all that, we have our VMU footage, which, as I explained, has been I've had to play it, I've had to stabilize it, and then I've had to cut it out and paste it into that screen there. So it wasn't easy getting that footage together, but it looks okay. I'm happy with it. Lots of tracking data. So if you can find a tutorial on that, this part of the process should be pretty straightforward. It's really just masking out the screen, making sure things are lined up behind it properly. I've probably applied a bunch of, just a simple corner pin to try and make sure that the footage stays there, and then parenting it to the null so that as the VMU, this layer here, as this top layer moves, all the footage will move with it because it's all attached to these 2 layers have the same tracking data. So, right, got my footage, got my VMU, got my fingers dropping. The next step is to add the blood. Like I said in my finger, I called it my finger severance composition, but my finger cutting composition, I used the blood. I was using a lot of the blood to mask the effect. Same story here, really. As the fingers hit the table, as the fingers hit the table, I've got them just making a mess of things, obscuring the seams to the composition. As you can see here, I've actually gone to the steps of masking out where I want the blood to go, which gives me, and this is also, obviously it's been masked, but it's also been parented back to the null, which has all the tracking data for the VMU. So very similar to what I did with the VMU screens, just this time I'm working with blood splatter and masking out around the VMU and applying this overlay, multiply, whatever blending option works best for that thing. I'm finding with these blood stock video, having a few different blending modes actually gave me a few different color variations in the blood used. So that was really good to know, actually. More complex mask here, but it's such a simple idea once you get down to the nitty-gritty of it. It's just making sure that it's all spurting at the right time, timing things up so it's not all happening at once or nothing's happening. You can see that I was playing with a bit of a lens blur here, which I didn't end up using in the final composition, and that happens all the time, for me at least. Yeah, again, really happy with how the composition turned out. I guess like any editing, it's really starting at the base point and building things on top of it. I guess that's what compositing is all about. So starting with this layer, make sure I get all my tracking data and my stabilizing shots if I need them. Cutting out the screen, stabilizing my VMU footage, pasting it underneath, and then on top, adding my digital blood effects. And you know, there's a lot more things happening at once than with the finger cutting, where it was just, you know, finger cutting really. But yeah, I'm really stoked with how it all turned out. Probably the best thing about actually doing so much of it is you work things out for yourself. I'm still looking at all these different projects and thinking, you know, there is a lot of work in here. But I also had, you know, the close-ups of the VMU footage, which were a lot more simple to do because I didn't have the fingers dropping on the cardboard, so I didn't have to stabilize this very top layer. I didn't have to worry about too much blood. It's just trying to get this splatter effect on the side and getting the screen in the middle. So once I did that main one, like the idea and the template was there, I just had to make sure I got a few different shots to break it up with. So really happy with how the effect turned out. Again, I'm really sorry that the composition is messy, but look, any hints, tips, or ideas of other things that you'd like to see? Like the screen replace is an effect that I've used a lot in other episodes, especially when I'm doing like the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff. I use a bit of screen replace. So I might go more into depth one day about putting together screen replacements. Obviously, I'm still learning. Like once I've released the video, I realized that the close-ups are much darker than the far away shots. But even then, the lighting's different, so I wasn't sure if that was such a big deal. But you know, consistency is a big part of it, and I let myself down like right there. So I'm still learning heaps, but I have really loved playing with these smaller effects. I'm not doing like a whole stage and a whole like shooting scene, which I've definitely got some more of those coming up because I enjoy doing them. But it was fun just doing something sort of a bit more low key, not as low key as a screen replacement, not just a screen replacement, but actually it's an effect, but it doesn't take up much of the review, and it definitely had some gore where there wasn't any before. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Sorry these are turning into just more rambles, but you know, it's just a tour of how I put together these effects. And I find it interesting going back and being able to judge my own workmanship, I suppose. It's also kind of interesting seeing like the original and how it's gone from this into this. Yeah, like a lot of stuff can go on behind the scenes, and getting this VMU footage I felt was really important for the review. So it was worth my time at least putting it together. Hopefully you've learned a few things. Like I said, if you've got any suggestions, leave them in the comments because I'd love to hear them. All right, dudes, thanks for watching.